Hey, Mike.
Hey, Lou here.
Hey, Lou, you on?
Yeah. I'm working to get my screen up.
Okay. Wade's going to have to call in. I'm going to type it into him right now. Mike, go ahead and get us started. I'm going to get Wade up and running on the phone, and then we'll go from there.
All right, thanks, Todd. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Coaching for Life webinar. My name is Mike Orzen, and we're really excited to have all of you on the webinar tonight. We're looking forward to what's been every 2 weeks an incredibly insightful event, and Wade and Lou have been, I'll speak for myself, very meaningful to me and my kind of journey through understanding how to be intentional about integrating character in everything I do. Initially, our topic was going to focus on the ultimate goal. We're changing it up tonight for a couple reasons. One, it's a timely issue. The topic is going to be discipline. So maybe not what you planned on, but I think it's going to be insightful nonetheless. So, Lou, you want to give a brief overview while Wade's logging in on some of the topics we're going to look at tonight and talk about?
Sure.
Wade?
You know, we automatically are preconceived ideas about discipline, and as soon as you bring it up in a public segment, usually we're thinking in the realm of punishment or some form of extended abuse or something that's very negative. And while there are certainly negative issues that we're dealing with, the reason the negative issue comes up is because there's something missing. And so that equation tells us what's needed. Do we yell at it more? Do we hit it twice? We tease about cutting the board short twice after we've measured it. The key is obviously we missed something, and the reason the board is too short because we were inattentive, we were irresponsible, we were negligent, and the way we tend to treat that is to keep harping on the negative. And so the structure that we're looking for is the whole issue of what's needed in the coach, what's needed in the athlete or the parent that's going to cause us to succeed, not just get even. And that's the issue that we're looking at tonight.
Yeah. I'll speak for myself. I mean, we all come to a leadership role with different strengths and weaknesses. Mine happens to be, it's easy for me to make a connection with my own children, the athletes I coach. It's very natural for me to connect with the people that I work with. What's harder for me personally is the discipline part. So I know for me this is an incredibly valuable lesson to learn, and I've certainly learned a lot about the importance of discipline and boundaries from both of you guys. So, Wade, you want to take it away? Let me remind everybody that if you have questions, please send them in the chat box to the panelists, and we'll take them either as we go through the webinar or certainly also take them at the end. But go ahead and chat them in as we go so that we can kind of organize them and fit the questions in the right places. Wade?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, great to be with everybody tonight. Hope you're doing well. Very timely topic here tonight for Coaching for Life is discipline, and we want to look at, the definition, the mindset of discipline that I think would help us, as Mike just shared, is sometimes that's the hard part. It's easy to give gifts, it's easy to be nice, it's easy to get along, but when issues come up, and maybe I don't want to be known as the hard guy or the disciplinarian, but someone has to do that, and hopefully tonight will make us a little bit sharper as leaders, a little more patient as leaders, and even a little more compassionate in seeing discipline as like Lou said, not just punishment, but, it's a lot more than that. When you look up the definition of discipline, you get means to train or develop by instruction or exercise, which I thought was really interesting. We looked it up in Webster's because as coaches, we're doing all kinds of exercise, but we do this that we're correcting, molding, and perfecting. And, what we're looking for is that we're reliable versus being unpredictable. Someone who does not have discipline is not reliable. They're unpredictable. We hear it all the time. If the player is disciplined or if it's a disciplined coach, that guy is, disciplined. We think they got it together. They're organized. They're responsible. But an undisciplined player or an undisciplined student is, very, they're not organized. You can see them in the classroom, see them on the field, and things aren't going right. So if you look at, Lou, when you really think about this, why does the opposite word unpredictable really ring on this when someone's not disciplined?
It's a kind of a fun thing because, in the context of negative behavior, we say they're undisciplined because there's no direction, they're misbehaving, they're distracting others. When we think of somebody that's depressed, we also could say that they're undisciplined because they don't know what to do when they're depressed. And so though we wouldn't think of punishing a depressed person, we would need to put that depressed person on a pattern of behavior or structure that helps deliver them out of that in a disciplined pattern to rehabilitate them. That would be true with an arm. It needs to be disciplined, not punished. It's already injured. And when we think of it that way from physical behavior, it's a no-brainer to realize, wow, what needs to be done therapeutically to bring an arm that's been lame or put out of joint back into a rehab and therefore a new purpose and accomplishment with that, and through discipline and structure. And that gives us a whole new agenda for how and why we're going to do what we're going to do when it comes to negative behavior or negative attitudes.
Well, I think what's really important here when you look at the definition for us as coaches, as a teacher, a parent, I am here to discipline, and it says right there, to train or develop. And to realize that I'm always in a process to train and develop those around me. So when you really look at that definition, it really helps us have that. Excuse me, John Wooden, I love his definition. The purpose of discipline is to correct, enhance, educate, modify behavior, or bring a positive change. Now, I think you said right off the bat, Lou, there is a mindset, once we think of, discipline, we think punishment. And I'm going to discipline you because somebody did something wrong. So our mindset needs to be one of am I punishing this person or am I here to correct? Did they do something wrong and I'm just going to pounce on them and jump on them? And I think as a parent and as a coach, if my mindset and even if my player's mindset would be we're running again because we did something, not because we did something wrong or being punished. We're running again because coach can discipline us to correct us, get our attention back, and redo it so we can do it better. Now, why is the mindset thing such an issue for people, Lou?
We have an inherent mindset that we don't measure up, and that's because of our selfish and sinful nature. The very definition of sin is to come short of the glory of God, the greatness of God, or His purpose for our life. And so we often think that God's out to punish us. And we transfer that to parents. We transfer it to coaches because we do come short. We cheat. We connive. We sneak. We hide food as kids. The whole thing. And, of course, we get negative connotation for that. And we, therefore, think that everything negative is because we're inadequate, we're second-rate, and we deserve to be punished in some ways. But, you don't think of punishing a child when he's learning to walk, because you're thinking about him standing up for the first time. You don't count the number of times he sits down or falls down. You expect a child to smear his food all over his face. Now, if he's still doing it at 25, we have a problem with that. But the idea is what needs to be trained. And so a caring or wise or protective or responsible parent thinks about what they're directing them to. And there's an inherent patience that goes with that. When we get on the ball field somehow and we got a rookie player, we immediately judge them in the context of other professional players, and we say, boy, they really messed up. Everybody in the bleachers or on the stand looks at all their flaws, and they can point them out. But they don't see all the small steps that they do that are right. So the issue, the punishment issue, is the fact that somehow I deserve to have a consequence always for my shortcoming. But that's not true. When it's intentional, irresponsible foolishness, yes, there needs to be negative consequences. When it's childish behavior, childlike behavior, then they need to be trained or directed. And we don't always know the difference. But we're going to find out by giving that child or that person direction and then seeing how they handle it.
Now, we put a couple of these bullets up here about the most vital time of coaching, is first and foremost the crucial time in coaching is in failure and loss. I mean, this is probably our time to step up the most in our coaching and restore our players back from mistakes and failures, and when they lose, when they mess up, when something happens at home and your kid comes home and there is an issue. These are the times for us to rise up and probably show the most poise, the most care, the most compassion. But how many times then in coaching, we end up blowing a gasket. We get upset and angry and frustrated and we unload on people, and all of a sudden we're yelling and screaming as somebody did something wrong. And this is a time where we need to be the best coach we could possibly be, and it's probably the time where we're the worst. And it's almost like sports and our life today has set us up not to restore people and bring them back, but just, boy, this time. And the other one is constant negativity. Boy, when there is just negative, you're always doing something wrong. The way we put it here, it maintains the pressure with no hope of relief. No hope of hearing you did something right. No hope of that job well done, where you can take a breather and move on to what's next in the practice or the game or the season or your classroom. When there's constant pressure, all you feel is negative. It's like a huge weight, isn't it, Lou, that just bears down on people?
Wade, there's such a valuable, loaded message in all this context, because the gamut, the range of what we're talking about tonight goes from extreme abuse to real violent and irresponsible childish leadership issues to very wonderful, mature, great people who've handled great crisis honorably. But in the middle, there are many a situation for many a parent and many a coach who don't have a clue if they're on the right path. Not everything is wonderfully resolved, or they have a child that's pushing their limits and exhausting their resources, and they throw up their hands in the air and say, I don't know what to do. A parent or a coach really isn't going to be a great parent or coach until they are pushed to the end of their limits and they exhaust every resource that they have to come up with another better idea. Sometimes the great breaking of a young person or of an athlete is to realize that they have really grieved or exhausted or stretched somebody they care about to the point of a great cost. And the coach throws up the hand and says, I just don't know what to do. I'm still concerned for you. But it's better than simply it's better that they say that, I don't know what to do, than that they resort to a lesser thing in cursing or hitting or take an irresponsible approach because they don't know what to do. There's got to be a bottom line before we rebuild.
That's why I think these are important for us, because as we are disciplining and, sharing with our players and bringing order and responsibility, we have to have a really good balance at it, or else we could fall into the trap of, a lot of the culture of sports and just lose it, which isn't right either.
Well, even in the realm of our religion and faith, there are many things that happen in our lives that we cannot explain. To try to explain everything, it really takes away the mystery of creation, the mystery of the Godhead in many ways that we don't have answers to. So to put pat answers to them is trite. To say, well, this is really good, or it's a cliche. But also to justify and ignore, or to go off on a selfish binge and destroy other people's lives isn't the answer either. Sometimes it's, I don't know, but I'm not free to go there, and we're going to put our efforts now into something that's constructive. Even though we don't understand certain things, we're going to put our best effort forward. And that's the bottom line of whether a man or woman understand whether they have a certain discipline. Bottom line that says this is the base of my integrity. And we as coaches and parents are measured in our integrity, and that's where our coaching begins as to what will you resort to when you have nothing left. And that's where the team is built from that point on. It's this issue right here. Then we build positively and saying, you know what? Instead of being provoked to anger, I'm going to stir and be stirred to excellence. Instead of resorting to always finding fault, I'm going to work, even in my own life, at building up the things that I'm doing right and encouraging somebody else to do the same thing. And, you know, we can punish other people's imperfections, but the question is, too, we're not doing any better by simply punishing our own imperfections. We need to take one step forward and encourage others to do the same thing. This has to be modeled as much as it's taught. I think it's a lot harder to live it than it is to teach it.
We can all throw our name in that hat. And, you know, just looking at these two columns, you know, you can kind of see, am I more on the right or the left? There is a balance in between the two. There is a time to criticize and critique and correct, but do I even give honor? You know, the issue here is, I know there's coaches out there that they're only on the right-hand side, and they're missing the incredible potential on the left-hand side to discipline and build up their players and discipline in the right way. And at the bottom line, in the outcome of all this is you're winning their heart, not wounding their heart. I mean, just so much today in sports is we're wounding hearts around us because things didn't turn out well.
Well, I think this is the critical factor of seeing the issue of discipline negatively, because we not only do it to others, but we also have experienced it that very way. So while we need discipline, it's not just a discipline to punish ourselves or the right to condemn ourselves or to feel sorry for ourselves or be punitive. It's the responsibility in ourselves to be allowed to be encouraged toward excellence, to take the right steps, even if it's a diet, and encourage each other in that area, even to accepting praise or encouragement where we need to be and letting people encourage us. And then we are able to encourage and give to others in the same manner.
And it's really important here that we're looking at ourselves here that as I am disciplining, and I think you said it, Lou, just the bottom line is that provoking or foundation of excellence. I was at a workshop in Arizona just this last weekend. And one of the coaches asked the question, because, you know, there's a lot of coaches who motivate and yell and scream and cuss and go, you know, crazy in their practice. And we're talking about trying to demand excellence and coach character and integrate it with your players. And he goes, I mean, no, he saw the other guys were getting results. And he said, yes, in the workshop, he said, so this character stuff, does this really work to motivate your players like that? You know, and it was a resounding yes. Other coaches even started piping in saying, you better believe it. You treat your players better, you're going to get more out of them. You know, and so I think it's a struggle for all of us. Either we've experienced something, the way we've been coached, or what we've seen, and maybe that guy's successful, so we're going to want to be like him. But bottom line, we all have to come to our own, you know, realization of what that is. And just looking at these two columns, it helps me as a coach and me as a parent just step back for a minute.
And wait,
as
I look at these
recently, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is there something else?
Yeah, it's me, Lou, Mike. As I look at these two columns and then reflect a little bit on the slide before with this concept of pressure and release, I just, Lou, you do such a wonderful job of illustrating pressure and release when you're training your horse in the round pen. Can you explain a little bit about the power of the pressure and release and why it really is so important as we are training, whether it be our athletes, our own children, people at work? Why is that so important? What is it?
Well, the funny thing is that all of us believe it's the negative pressure that really gets people to change. Well, it's true. It's the negative pressure, the pain, that gets us to look for it. And so that's the reality. Discomfort or criticism or vulnerability or embarrassment, those are all part of the negative issues of life. But the truth of it is the reason we want to get out of the negative is because we want to get back to a reward, whether it's comfort or being approved or being honored or winning, because we are really motivated to want to be accepted and honored and valued by others. And it's the reward, it's the release that comes in, the relationship that comes out of the conflict. The unfortunate thing, many of us find the reward in the wrong way, the release by avoiding a conflict or demeaning somebody or running away from responsibility. That still is a release of pressure. So every one of our avoidance patterns that we do by arguing or criticizing or calling names, we get out of the immediate situation, or we go get drunk, some of us, in a sense, because it relieves the pressure. It's the reward that they're looking for. Unfortunately, the more negative ways you get rewarded, even temporarily, the more you end up repeating this habit more often. But you do find the reward, either by cursing somebody or ignoring them or quitting the team or quitting the job, quitting the marriage. The key is not the reward. The key is the right reward that not only brings confidence and discipline, but it brings true honor and lasting results. So you can get negative reward as well as positive reward. We see it in negative behavior all the time. We see kids acting up because they do get attention that way. In fact, the next slides we're going to go to on that triangle very much prove that. They get eye contact, they get physical touch, they get focused attention all in a negative way, and it works. Unfortunately, it brings the person into a lifelong bondage of negative behavior, and that's so shameful.
We want to look here as we talked about having a balance as we're disciplining and a balance in training. What we're going to have here is you can see the bottom of the teeter-totter basically is the triangle there that is based off of character. And having one where the leader or the coach has a connection, is competent and competitive. And what we want to talk about here is there's a couple different ways of training. First, on the left-hand side, there's loving, and the three things Lou just talked about, and then there's a discipline part, which has the words around it there. Let's take the left side, Lou, first. I mean, the thing is, I think a lot of coaches, or even parents, we struggle to have this balance instead of I'm disciplining all the time and there's really no love, or I'm so loving, there's no discipline, and I think coaches are trying to find a balance in that. This gives us a great picture of what does it mean to really love those around you. And I don't think you could see it because the slide didn't turn, but the three things someone feels loved, we talked about, number one is eye contact. Number two is physical touch. I think the touch is underneath the triangle. Sorry about that. And then there's focused attention. And people will know they're loved by these things. As you coach players, eye contact is very important. When you're ready to reward your players after they run a play, are you making eye contact with them, or are you looking down at your sheet to the next play and you're just saying something? Is there focused attention on them? Is there a physical touch, a high five, a pat on the back, a hand on the shoulder? Those things bring physical touch and make people feel like they're cared for, they're loved, they're appreciated. My wife could be talking to me and I could be listening to her, but I'm watching television. I'm not giving her eye contact or focused attention, so she's wondering, is he even listening to me? Is he really loves me and care about me? I'm trying to share with him right now, and at that stage, am I willing to turn and show my love, or am I just sit myself and do my own thing? And unfortunately,
every time I'm exposed to this weight, I feel convicted.
I'm watching too much television. And, same thing with my kids. Go ahead.
Well, not just that, but it's how much more we could do, or do I give 7 times more physical touch in the right context than in the negative context? When I grab somebody's arm because I'm mad at them, or grab them by the neck, or give them an angry scowl, or the furrow on my brow. We all are motivated by affirmation and approval.
That's so true.
There isn't one of us out there that can't do a better job in this area at home or on the field or at the workplace.
That's why we're on the webinar tonight. To remind us of what to do and how we can do better.
Avoiding eye contact And not giving physical touch or focused attention is usually because we're self-centered. You know, recently I was dealing with a man who's been going through some very significant trials in his life, and as people approached him with wondering why he was in such a situation or trying to comfort him, you know, it was amazing to watch that man reach out and give to every person that contacted him, that he actually built them up and saw specific issues in their life of strength and quality, and they came to help him, and instead were blessed in the process. And there was a person who, in his darkest times, really was a powerful giver, and that person gave them eye contact. They affirmed them and comforted them in their insecurity when he himself was in a worse one.
You know, as we get to the other side, Lou, the discipline side, discipline is really training, and we have correction there. We also put reward there. One of the keys is a lot of times we as coaches, we can be correcting, telling kids when they're doing things wrong and but we never reward them. If a kid does something wrong and we correct him, whether it's his footwork, whether it's his elbow or his hands on a specific drill or technique, and the very next play we run the drill and he does it right, do we reward him and let him know, great job, that was just what I taught you, that a way to learn and be attentive? And in the midst of that's disciplining just as much.
Yeah, those rewards can be extrinsic, as you can give them a verbal thing, you can give them money, or you can give them food, or whatever the case is, okay? Or they can be intrinsic, where the person realizes they understood something, where they got the last math problem and they're moving on, or they felt good about what they wrote, and you simply affirmed them in that. Or they did the right thing to somebody and they got the joy of giving to them. That's this level of reward we want to wake them to, the things that happen on the inside of them that come automatically with a responsible, well-intentioned heart, so that somebody else they're not always building a lifestyle on somebody else approving them or rewarding them. But it starts not just by those big behavioral things and those big wins. It starts by watching for them making healthy, attitudinal choices.
And you notice in the teeter-totter here, as we go up and down, loving and disciplining, it's really based on our character and us as a person. And I think as we are juggling this concept of disciplining and training and rewarding and loving those around us and disciplining them at the same time, it's amazing what it does in our own life. And
the teeter-totter is exactly right, Wade, because there's two groups of people hearing this webinar tonight, and half of them will say, I need to be more loving, and the truth of it is you need to be more disciplined. I watched a young mother the other day, and her child works through every time there's a little bit of, the mother says no, the child immediately bursts into tears and comes and cuddles with her. Well, that's a total manipulation. And that mother's learning to be more structured, giving more discipline, because the child is actually working the mother, and the love is actually is enabling the child. And that mother thinks she's always wrong for not loving, when she really is not building enough structure for that child. No means no, and you're not going to manipulate me with tears or hugging me. Sit there and take the correction. On the other hand, there's a part of the audience that has a lot of structure, but they don't have the other loving side. And every one of us, and including our marriages, have the teeter-totter in these issues.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. Okay, so what do I do? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, for 1 second. I want to add one thing, if you go back to that slide. I recently read a book called The Servant, and it's a really excellent book. I highly recommend it. It's about the essence of true leadership. And one of the concepts in this book is really about love being in the foundation of the real foundation of leadership. But as he goes in to define love, he talks about the fact that love, many of us think love is giving people what they want. And actually what love is giving them what they need. And sometimes they don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where discipline really comes in, is having the discipline to know what folks need as opposed to what they want. For example, running a business, there might be plenty of employees that would love and think they deserve and want a huge raise. If we give them what they want, we might be out of business in a couple months, and that won't be really good for them. So if we give them what they need, which is an infrastructure and the motivation to perform in the marketplace, for example, to fund that desire for more income, then we're in good shape.
Amen. Okay, so what do we do here? As we click through this, you see as an example, it's like we're running a drill. Okay, and as we run this drill, either two things happen. Either one, and this is where I as a coach have to recognize what is going on here. Either one, I saw a player who was attentive, showed the initiative, and executed the very thing we asked them to do. Or the kid was ignorant, there was weakness being there was confusion, didn't know what was going on, they probably didn't listen before the drill. So this is what happened. My response to that as a coach is if they're attentive and show initiative, I reward and release them. Nice job. I like the way you ran it. That a way to be attentive. That a way to show initiative. You're rewarding the character that you just saw, the inside stuff. And the ones that don't, here's where we go back, correct, and train, where let's run that play again. Mike, you need to get on the line and you need to listen this time. You know, there's where you're up to those players and you're starting to discipline them into what we need to, what we're looking for. And everything we do every day, this comes up. And here's two questions, I think, for us as we discipline. Are we recognizing what's going on, and do we have a prepared response? Because if I don't have a prepared response to correct and train, that's where you see coaches just, you're so terrible. How can you drop that fast? My grandma can do better than that. And also what comes out is what we call effortless coaching. Just words that make no sense whatsoever. And this is where we as coaches need to step up to the plate and know what we're doing and be those patient teachers of the game again. And have a steadfastness in disciplining and correcting those around us so that they can become better. Any other thoughts on this slide, Lou?
Well, obviously my field of coaching is not soccer or football, but over the last week I'd tell you that I had many either pre-married couples or when I'm driving on the road and part of my team, they look for those very early morning hours when the other team is asleep and there's one person that's awake at 4:30 in the morning driving with me, and they open their hearts to me and asking me about their plans for marriage or how they're doing or their career choices. And they're asking, am I making the right choices? What's needed in my life? How can I get farther along? And they're asking me, what do I see in the development stages of their life that are actually enhancing them or hindering them? And it's an amazing privilege to, in the drills of their life, in their relationships, look for those moments when there's a window into their heart and being prepared with the ability to really speak into their life the things that are really fruitful, the things that have been well received and honored and blessed and encouraged others, and the things that yet hinder them and hold them back, and how they can continue to grow in those areas that they are vulnerable in. And they take that like an apple of gold. It's one of those treasure moments, and after they've talked their heart out for 2 hours, they go to sleep, and they'll wait for 3 more months for another conversation like that.
Well, another thing that comes up, we've talked before, is that you drill to get to the heart of your players. And the reason we run drills is to see what's inside, not just the skill on the outside. And as we are seeing when we're recognizing, see, the thing is, we could also put under recognize just the physical skills in the outside of our players only. And we could talk about that all the time, but we miss the very essence of coaching of the inside stuff. I could do a drill for a kid to shoot a basketball, and if he does it right, and his extension's great, and his hand finishes, and his footwork was great, good foundation, he was balanced, I could recognize that, but then all I'm teaching is the physical show. And I'll miss the inside stuff.
Yeah. How we handle that action on the field and on the court, Wade, will open the door for that kid to come off season about his relationships at home or his relationships with the opposite gender or his future, his career choices, and that's what we're really looking for because we've earned that right.
Here's a couple coaching tips from Dick Vermeil, who used to coach in the NFL. Dick was very much a player's coach. had deep respect from his players for him, was a very caring coach. Here's a couple points that he brings up in one of his talks that I thought really relate, or good pointers for us as we are going to discipline those around us. Is the first one, and always be aware of players' feelings. Be firm in correcting, but don't be degrading. And there's no room whatsoever in anything, the classroom, a sport field, or at home, to degrade and shame those around us. That is unacceptable. It needs to stop. We need to raise up a generation of coaches that are so incredibly capturing the heart of their players that shaming and degrading will disappear from the sidelines and courts and fields of our country. The second one there, good coaches making a policy that mistakes made by players are coaching opportunities. I mean, do we even see that? I mean, how many times when we see mistakes, that's an opportunity for me to coach. That's why we're on the field with these kids in the first place, because they're not going to be perfect. And boy, as a coach, that's a mindset thing right there that's huge, that we need to capture these opportunities. And the bottom one, very low value, comes out of the belief that players will respond progressively better by treating them progressively worse. And you think about, what's funny is you see coaches get more and more frustrated at practice, and the more frustrated they get, the less production they get from the players, and it just is a pretty vicious cycle over time. Any other thoughts on these, Lou?
No, I think they're fun. They're great cliches, and they're true. They're very true.
One more good one here is, when people work in a place where people care about them, they contribute a lot more than what their paycheck dictates. And I don't know about you, but when you're around people that care about you, you're around people that are fun to be around, you're creating an atmosphere of a real team, there's authenticity there, and you're being trained, and you're being loved, and you're being disciplined, people put out a little bit more. And as coaches, we want to have a balance in our coaching.
I'd say this, the way we handle the negative issues on the field and the way we give direction to them will determine how successful we are in bringing them. If they find us to be a source of wisdom and truth and true investment, they will beat a path to get back to us off season.
Wow.
And that's proof whether we've punished or we've disciplined, giving them a future and a hope and a basis, and we get to invest in their future in other ways.
So as we we start taking questions here in a little bit, but just to wrap up, it is a huge role and responsibility of a coach to discipline those around us. We are not there because we have some rightful authoritarian position to punish those around us when they do something wrong. We are there as teachers and coaches to train and mold and develop the next generation and to pour into them a spirit of excellence in what they do and to help them reach their potential. And it will take discipline along the way. And, may we be wiser in our discipline, our timing, what we say, the spirit in which we say things. May we be more careful when we're around kids we're coaching. And may we be one that are structured and are disciplined, but we're also very loving and very caring. And if we can have a balance in that in our parenting, our coaching, I'm telling you, we're in a whole new place. So any other last thoughts, Lou?
The level of success of our coaching should be measured by the difficulties of problems being brought to us. The more successful we are, the worse the problems will be.
Anybody want to sign up for that one?
I've noticed over the years that as I became increasingly effective in training, I got more and more people wanting to say, I have a horse that no one else could fix. As I became more and more effective in counseling, people would say, I have a kid that no one else could fix. I have a marriage that's broken. I've already been to everybody else. No one can help us. Now, that doesn't mean everybody wants help. But the truth of it is that our honor in life is to fix the desperate people and have the wisdom and the discipline to give them a hope and a direction where others have failed.
Great. Todd, I'll bring it back to you, and you can take over the question piece. And we appreciate everybody here tonight. I know in 2 weeks our next webinar is going to be Frustrated Leadership. I think we are all qualified for that one to do do the webinar. But, you know, as parents and coaches, I mean, have you ever been frustrated? And it really ties into this. And, you know, the frustration when things aren't going right, or what else can I do? And we're going to jump into that in 2 weeks, and we could basically almost take the rest of the year and just talk about disciplining and timing and what do you say, and I mean, just the real life stuff that comes at us day in, day out, week in and week out. So, Todd, I'll bring it back to you and give you back control of the webinar.
Okay, thanks. Mike, go ahead and take over questions and answers, and I'll just kind of hang here, and if you need something, let me know.
Okay, well, first, we have a few questions, but we'd like to invite all of you guys to send us any more. Hopefully, as you've looked at and listened to the webinar, I know we have a lot of people from different walks of coaching. We have parents, and we have coaches, and we have business folks all on this webinar, and hopefully you've seen the parallels of the need for leadership and the need for a balance between, again, loving and discipline. And one of the questions we have from Mark Agnello is, and maybe you guys can comment on this, is the point about how some of us and some of the people we lead think they should have what they want rather than what they need, and how do we help them understand what they need rather than what they want? Lou, can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, that's a great one. You know, I think we have to know the difference between need and want. It's the nature of children to position things to make sure that their wants have the greatest attention and priority. Everybody's wearing it. They're all doing it. You know, don't make me look stupid in front of my classmates, etc. And fad, momentum, popularization drive us to keep on capitulating to the wants of a self-driven, self-centered driven culture. And boy, we as parents, we have the same thing. All I want is relief. And so we have our wants as parents, as we do coaches. We want to win. We want to be rid of this problem rather than really be bettered by the process and grow through it. And the truth of it is, ministering and directing our attention to the need of a child means that we're probably in for a battle. We don't want to fight. Let's just give in to their want. We want to capitulate as leadership because we really don't want to be a better coach or a wiser resource. We just want to be relieved from the problem. So our bottom line is the issue of integrity. Am I resolved to do what I think to be the best in every situation that comes to resolving and addressing the true need of the person? Whether we're diagnosing a physical problem or a psychological problem or a spiritual problem, half of the addressing is to get rid of all the fluff and the presenting problems and the presenting issues to get down to the real, discern what is causing the problem. We take a car in, we want to have the thing fixed, not just treated. We want the cancer diagnosed, not just symptomatically covered. And if we really want to know the truth, and that's our job in leadership, to discern what the true needs are and do our best. We may miss. We will miss in many of those occasions. But an unmet need will persist in returning. And that tells me I haven't addressed this deeply enough or thoroughly enough, and it's time that I really take the responsibility to share my whole heart on the matter and give my best. But I think it's a process because we are all drawn to answering wants with our own wants, and we get to manipulating and playing our players or our children in the same way. I just want you to quit crying, so I'll give you whatever you want. When you realize, wait a minute, I need to teach them they're allowed to cry and express themselves, and then there's a point where I say that's enough. And I teach them how to get themselves back under control and to be cheerful again. That takes more work, but only for a moment. It takes less work to meet a need than it does to ignore a need and give to a want repeatedly, and eventually that shows up.
That's great. I had an experience, Wade and Lou, recently with one of my own children, where he got caught lying, and one of the ways I decided to handle this was to tell him that I could empathize with why he might want to do that, why he wouldn't want to disappoint because he's made a decision earlier that day that he knew was wrong, and he tried to cover it up. And I went on to explain to him that ultimately while that's an easy fix, to cover something up that he's not proud of, it really will end up making him a prisoner in his own body. Is there a place for that? Is there a place for that kind of empathy, even in disciplining and telling him that it's clearly wrong, but it's wrong because it's going to have a negative impact on him and his life? Is that how would you respond to that, both of you?
Well, I think you just demonstrated the teeter-totter. You know, you're showing the loving side there of, the empathy of the, 'cause it's reality. It's probably what you were feeling. It's empathizing with his thoughts and his thought process, but then it's bringing home the reality of it, of training him to, hey, we know what's wrong and here's how you do things right. It'd be so easy in a way as a parent just to, a lot of times we just don't slow down enough to empathize with our kids and what they're going through, or what was the situation, and to show compassion in that first, and to see people making mistakes, but then to still be firm and correct and make a stand in judgment of what was wrong, and so they can learn that lesson. I mean, if we did that more often, or more slower to wrath and anger and better at listening, I think we'd all be better off.
Grieving is a very, very important part of getting somebody else to come to terms with the cost of it. We don't have time to grieve today. We fix it, mandate it, change it, and we don't process anything. Grieving is one of the most powerful things we can do to help a person enter into the real pain they've caused, but that takes time. It takes what Wade said. First of all, empathizing with them. I identify with it. I could be tempted to do the same thing. In fact, I have been tempted, and I even failed at this. And as I look back in my life, here's what it cost me. And here's the sorrow. And I got away with it, not just for a little bit, but I built a habit of it. And I got away with it for years. And here's what it cost me later in my character, in my marriage, in my confidence, etc. And I to this day, I grieve that it had gone on so long until I had to hit a brick wall. I had to go back and apologize and reconcile and to really hold myself and allow myself to be held accountable for becoming a man of truth. Boy, I wish my parents, or I wish somebody would have helped me build more muscles of truth when I was young, because they were much harder to build later. And that's why I'm committed, based on what I learned, to help you become an honest and truthful young man or young woman now. And I know you will not like me for it, but I know you will love me for it later, because I am committed to helping you learn what I failed to learn earlier. Yeah. And there's the grief, there's the identity, there's the compassion, there's the discipline and the focus and the stick-to-itiveness. And you know what? You say, well, that's going to cost a lot of time and energy. Well, you just imagine what 10 more years of lying is going to cost you. I'll guarantee you'll spend up 100 nights at night wondering what your kid's coming home, whether they're telling you the truth, who they're with, etc. So whatever you spend now is minuscule compared to what you'll spend in the long term.
Yep. And that's, to be honest, it's one of the things I did think about as he got out of the car and walked into the house, as I reflected on, the fact that I had wished that I had more of that as a child, and a lot of me getting to that point is my relationship with both of you. So I really appreciate that, and I'm grateful for it.
It's because we lied too. It was terrible, costly.
Yeah, I'm bought in. One of the things Mark Agnello just commented is just what Lou just said is very powerful, and I think really what we're talking about tonight is powerful. And you know, Wade, it's not coincidental that one of our themes, one of our curriculums is being balanced, right? I mean, and that's really what we're talking about tonight, is being in balance and having the balance of love and capturing the heart. But the need to truly capture the heart, in order to truly capture the heart, there's a real discipline piece to that, right?
Oh, dude, exactly. Well, what a great webinar tonight. I think just as, you know, you sit back and just, you know, how often do we really get a chance to kind of take a step back and just think through what we're doing? And I think these are some of the most powerful times as a coach and a parent and a teacher and a leader, to just sit back and think through what we're doing and get some tips on how can I do it better and right, and be part of a learning community together. You do a great job tonight, and thanks so much, Mike, for hosting.
Both of you guys, great job. Thanks for attending. If this resonated with you guys, please share it with your friends. Please share our website, which is on the screen now. And again, we think there's a universal language, and not just coaching, but we're all really coaches, whether we're parents or coaching or business or community leaders, school teachers. Share it with your friends. Thank you guys very much. Have a great evening. Wade and Lou, we'll talk soon. Thank you, Tom.
Great. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Sounds
All right. Hey, good night, all. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
See you, Lou. See you, Mike.